I welcome all the dignitaries from the various education stakeholders from the various part of the world right now. So we are right now live from the School Tech Summit on 27 June 2020. The total theme of this summit is that in this current situation, how schools are adopting technology in most enhanced way, and what are the major features and what are the technology outlook they are looking behind that. The total overall topic is that mobile first and the mobile only education shaping the future classrooms, the new rules and the engagement defines. So right now we have Dr. S.K. Rathore, Chairman and Managing Director, Sanford Group of Schools, live from Ghaziabad. Welcome, Rathore sir. Welcome very much.
So much.
Welcome to
Thank you so
the
much.
ELATS School Tech Summit. Thanks for joining, sir. Our next panelist is Dr. Jawahar Suri Sethi, the international educationist and advisor to government in smart cities. Welcome, Dr. Jawahar, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining, sir, and thank you for taking out your time for this wonderful panel discussion. Our next speaker is Ms. Raquel Sroff, CEO, Global Education Solutions. Welcome, Raquel, ma'am. Welcome to the School Tech Summit, and we are love to hear your views regarding the all the new scenarios and new trends and the new synergy that has been eruption. Our next panelist is Dr. Niyati Chitkara, Principal, Chitkara International School. She is live from Chandigarh. Welcome, Dr. Niyati, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, as we can start the panel with some discussions regarding the situation that has erupted from last 4 months. School has been closed. Students and teachers are navigating the life that they have never seen before. They have come to the home schooling right now. So I want to take the views from each panelist that in what manners they are looking forward and what the major challenges on the basis of ground, because all the key stakeholders are right now live from this. So I can start with the Dr. S.K. Rathore, sir, that from before March, after March, what the major challenges that you have seen in the education domain in terms of student, in terms of teachers, in terms of parents, and what the basic opportunities and the approaches that you are defining right now to all the educators who are in the education domain, sir. Over to you, S.K. Rathore, sir.
Thank you, Abhishek. So, first of all, I would like to thank ELAX Technomedia, Raviji, and Abhishek, and the whole team for organizing this virtual summit. This is the changes what you can see before March and after March. So now the events are happening on the virtual platform. So for the school, when in the first week of March in northern part, basically though we because we are from Delhi NCR, so in Delhi NCR in the first week itself the schools were asked to close down their operations, and later on then the lockdown was announced. So I believe no school was prepared for that kind of situation, because that was a time for admissions. That was time for planning of new session which was supposed to begin in the April. That was time to announce for the results of the classes which are not for the board examinations. So everything was stopped all of a sudden. I can say the all most of the schools and all the teacher community worked very hard. They tried to overcome of the challenge what they were not prepared for. None of the teacher was ready for the uh, virtual classes. Most of the schools, or I can say 90%, more than 90% of the schools were not prepared as far as technology is concerned, as far as the skills are concerned, to deliver the class on the virtual platform. But all of a sudden, we all had to start our session in the first week of April. And because we majorly are into preschool education, though we have K-12, but we are into preschool education for 2 decades now. So it was a tough time for all the preschools in the country, because preschool cater the children of so small age. It is very difficult to engage those children into virtual classes. The teachers are not so techno savvy in preschool segment. Even many of the teachers in K-12 school also not techno savvy. But all the schools work very, very hard. And teachers, I want to salute teachers. They come out of their shells and they tried their best and delivered the classes. And I tell you, I spoke to most of the preschool brand owners in the country, and the kind of work the preschools are doing these days, the kind of work K-12 schools are doing these days, the kind of work teachers are delivering, their work time is doubled every day because they have to create the content, then they have to deliver it. And initially, it was very challenging because all of a sudden the parents have entered into classroom. So that was the fear for the teachers. The teachers were initially were not so ready to take the virtual classes because parent can point out their mistakes. So this was the time to create a new kind of faculty in the country. So I feel all the schools are now ready to deliver whatever is required, and this is the time all the teachers, all the teachers, all the parents, all the school promoters, all education leaders are ready what they were supposed to be ready after 5 years. So this is the benefit what we have come out with during this COVID-19 crisis.
Rightly pointed, Dr. S.K. Rathod, sir. Content and delivery is the major challenge. People are not yet too ready to accept these challenges right now. Overcome to the Dr. Jawar, sir. You are connected with the government also. You are advisor to the government also. You are a leading international educationist. What are the major challenges you have seen in your aspect, and what approaches you have suggested to the educators to lead from the front line? Can we have your views, Dr. Sir? Can you put on your mic, Jawar, sir? Can you put on your mic?
Yeah. Just. Okay, so two things. One is it that 70% are government schools, and that's a major chunk of the population. There are a lot of talks from the government side that there is going to be a huge digital divide, etc., etc. I am a firm believer that during these times, when there is no other option, virtual is the only option. So at least there is something that we can look up to, we can hook up to. One good thing that I am seeing today, and I am very happy, that usually conferences run behind time. Since this is a virtual conference, this is on time. So that is one bright aspect of what we are seeing. Having said that, as a psychologist, we have seen that there is no uniform code of conduct for running online or virtual classes in terms of the government schools. I'm only talking because they are not equipped. So every government brings out a ban in terms of online classes. So Karnataka comes up with a ban up to class 5. Then Maharashtra comes up with a ban up to class 2. And I have an article in Times of India and Bharat Times yesterday on why we should have online classes, because there is no other option. See, if there is some option, then we can think of it. But since there is, we should get ready with this. So the first thing is that online or virtual classrooms does not mean just that the teacher is sitting and teaching. Usually what has happened of late is that parents have outsourced education to the schools, so they think that everything good or bad that is happening to the child is happening in the school, which is a wrong notion. At least with these virtual classrooms, parents have become responsible. They have become partners to the schools because they have to sit with the children and participate in the education. That is a brighter side of seeing things of the virtual education that we are seeing. The second is, we should also have a policy which we are already defining on for age 3, what is the amount of online or virtual class that is possible, what are the gaps that are to be given, how much is the span of attention of the child, and so on till from grade 6, from grade up to 10th, 11th, 12th, what are the, at least we will need to define a policy which is currently non-existent. So the best part of it is that now with that we are facing this challenge, we have started thinking about it. The third important thing which the previous speaker has said is that teachers were considered to be laggards in technology more than the children. The children were supposed to be ahead. But the challenge that the teachers have taken up in such a short period of time, I would be the first one to say that they are the Corona warriors. There is no better person who can influence the generation next and take care of them than a teacher. And in this period of crisis, the way they have come up to the challenge, nobody else has come up and who are influencing. So these are 3-4 more important points. The fourth we will come up according to as the discussion progresses. Thank you.
Thank you, Jawad sir. Rightly pointed out regarding the digital divide, virtual classroom is the only options. Now moving on to Dr. Neti Chitkara, ma'am. We have seen the problems, we have seen the challenges. So what is the approach that we have to be extend to of this situation, and what your suggestions to the educators how are dealing the situation in your schools right now, ma'am, regarding this COVID and regarding these challenges of this digital divide and the virtual classrooms?
Thank you, Abhishek. First of all, thank you, ELETS, for the opportunity, and I'm very honored to be sharing this panel with such distinguished people. First of all, I don't see it as a challenge. I see it as a great opportunity, because this is the time when we all, we were working towards the much desired change in education, and we were all striving towards it. Somewhere back of the mind, we were all prepared that some big change in education will come for sure. And this is the time. So this is the beginning where nature has given us this opportunity to embrace this challenge and turn it into an opportunity. What I feel is that there is a lot of chaos, of course, but the chaos is the basis for every kind of problem solving scenario. And what I feel is that this is the best time for action research. Fantastic problems schools are facing. It's the best time to study those problems, analyze, interpret the results, and then communicate it to the world, and then look for solutions. So I think this is the best time for education. Also, a lot of challenges, but the major challenge, be it a private school scenario situation or a government school scenario situation, the major challenge is to keep all the stakeholders intact. And when I talk about stakeholders, I'm not just talking about parents, I'm not talking about students, I'm not talking about faculty, but I'm talking about the community, the environment, government, statutory bodies. The entire educational landscape needs to be intact. And, also there's something where, all the schools are striving to come up to a situation of normalcy. We are trying to ensure that our virtual classrooms look as normal as our real classrooms. So that's where everybody's trying their level best, as everybody mentioned. A lot of credit to all the teachers and educators, experts, because they got very less time, and they could make the best out of it. And we have very less resources. So making the most out of whatever we had, I think, was the biggest challenge. Until date, the challenge is going on because schools haven't opened yet, and we're still, the lockdown situation is still there with schools. Also, how to keep the learner engaged during a virtual scenario, because even in a physical classroom, learner has this tendency of a switch off, switch on situation. So even if the child is physically present in the class but mentally absent many times, because the retention span is kind of deteriorating. So that's where it's a big challenge. And also one of the major challenges, health. How to ensure that due to these online classes, there is no major compromise on the child's health, not just physical health, not just eyesight, but it's all mental health as well. The happiness quotient of the child, doesn't get compromised sitting at home. So all these factors are important, and we are striving and working towards these factors. And I would like to share, what innovative methods we are trying to use, in our case, through a story telling situation. But I'll come to that later. I think we have Raquel here, to talk about it. So yes, maybe the next question. Yeah.
Nicely pointed, ma'am. Turning crisis into the opportunity.
Right.
And we are coming to the Raquel, ma'am. As per the global, Raquel, ma'am, can you? Yeah. As per the global perspective, ma'am, what your views regarding the how what major best practice follow? What's your views regarding for this COVID-19 situation and the schools and educators should follow to gain the trust of the students and as well as the parents also?
Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you, Ravi. And great to see a lot of my friends here on the panel. Um, I think, though there's been a lot of discussion on the digital divide, I agree with Dr. Niyati's sentiments that the COVID has also been a great equalizer because it has affected all countries, developing countries, developed countries, even in a country like Australia. There were a lot of disadvantaged students who had no access to a device or internet to learn, and the ecosystem was conducive though to help those children out. So the government, industry bodies, community organization collaborated together to ensure that those children are not left behind and that every child has an equal opportunity to access this online learning. So I think it is a great equalizer if we can all collaborate better, as Niyati said, and create an ecosystem. I don't think we needed a COVID to sort of reimagine what education should look like in the 21st century and reinvent, how teaching and learning should take place. But I guess COVID has only accelerated the need for technology adoption. And this panel has an interesting topic because I remember until last year, all schools were banning mobile devices. Mobiles were a big no-no. Social media was a big no-no. And but now we are forced to look at using the same mobile as a teaching aid. So I think that's the biggest change in both policy, but we have to educate and empower learner with certain practices to embrace this new way of learning. It's not just about having a mobile or having content, but for students, I think they have to transition into becoming self-directed learners. They've got to take the responsibility for their learning. There's also, as a parent, you need to know how to monitor screen time and how to achieve that balance between what you learn on the screen and what you do offline, and what activities you can do at home, which still contributes to the learning. So parents need to be empowered and educated with e-safety, as well as participating in the learning from home. Students also need to be oriented to this new way of learning online, because it may not work for everybody. Maybe some students might take to it easily. They're quite comfortable in a digital space. They're able to express themselves. But for some of them, they might, still long for the social contact and a different way of learning. So how do we bring everybody on the same page so that, the teachers are doing a tremendous job trying to facilitate learning, trying to engage the learner in different ways. It's much harder if the learners are, younger students. It's easier if they're older students. So this teachers are doing a lot to engage the learner. They've got to reimagine how to assess students' learning because they can't see them, in front of the class. So it's a big, so though there are challenges, I think what it has highlighted or has brought to the forefront is the need to educate and empower the parent as well as the student and the teacher, so that then what we're doing together is effective.
Nicely pointed, ma'am. This COVID situation has been the great equalizers between the educators and the students. So moving to the topic, as Jawahar sir pointed out, virtual classroom is the only solutions. So my questions to the Jawahar sir is that can virtual classroom overcome the traditional classroom? Is there any behavior change that you are looking forward in our future circumstances? The students, teacher, parents, can it overlap the traditional classroom?
No, I don't see virtual classrooms as a replacement, complete replacement. Yes, the way forward is blended. This much I can see, because with social distancing or physical distancing, whatever you call, infrastructural need of the school is going to half. So you will need double the infrastructure if the distance is to be maintained. So obviously they will find out ways of 3 days of physical class and 3 days of virtual class or something like that. So it has to be blended. The second important behavioral aspect that I am seeing is that we will miss our peer groups. So dost ke kandhe pe haath dalna I will miss. So there is going to be a lack of trust on who is infected and not, and that's a huge psychological disadvantage to the teenagers especially. The third and most important thing is that if students are on virtual classrooms, the brain side for 60 days and 2 hours every day, you are doing something, then it becomes a habit. The neural networks are designed in such a way, and once it becomes a habit and you are hooked online, it will become a huge habit, and it will become a huge problem, that the digital well-being of the child is going to be affected. And after school start normally, how are you going to unhabit these children from hooking off from the net? This is one more challenge, behavioral, that I am seeing. So last but not the least, this is a wake-up call not for the children. The children are technologically equipped, but the parents who have not got used to not being a part of the education system are now forced to be a part of the system, which is a good thing, because 8 hours the child spends at home, it's a part of his learning. 8 hours the child spends in school, it's a part of his learning, and 8 hours he spends to himself, which is also a part of his learning.
Nice input, sir. Nice input. So coming to SK Rathore, sir, digital penetration has come to the home, books, assessment, admissions, in every aspect. So what future and longer impact you are seeing in the students and the teachers relationship that Jawahar sir has just mentioned out, like हाथ पे कंधे पे हाथ रखने वाला जो सीन है वो खत्म हो जाएगा, उसके लिए क्या आपका what is regarding, कैसे इसका impact long term?
I can say this is the situation what the world is facing these days. This is not a permanent kind of situation. So this is the solution which we all educator has come with. This is the demand of the time, because we can't ignore our children. We can't leave them without the education. So all the teachers, I can say rather, the bonding between the parents and teachers are increased like anything. Because now the parents are seeing the teachers working hard. They know how much work teacher is doing, and they know the problem also, how difficult it is to handling the child in the classroom, because now the classroom is shifted to their home only. So the respect of the teachers is increased in the parent community. One thing. Second thing, the bonding between the child and student and the teacher is, I think, not affected so much, because in the virtual class itself also, the teachers are there in front of the student on the screen only. That is the difference only. They are not physically present, but they are on the other side of the screen. So I think whenever the school will physically reopen with n number of conditions, I think COVID compliances, maybe 30% what we are hearing these days, 30% or 50% students are allowed to enter in the school in a day. So I think the bonding between student and teachers are not going to dilute. One thing. Second thing, that the importance of teachers is like anything. Third thing, the importance of physical schooling will never go down, because what Jawahar sir said, that is very right thing. This is a human nature. This is a human need also. हम सबकी ये जरूरत है, सोशलाइज करने की नीड है, बच्चों को सोशलाइज प्ले स्कूल में अगर मैं बात करूं प्ले स्कूल व्हाट प्ले स्कूल पीपल आर डूइंग they are just creating a social environment for the children what they are not having at their home because in today's nuclear families maybe maximum 2 children are there and the environment is so unsecure these days parents don't want to their child to any other home also so in case of pre-primary and primary it is very very important to socialize the student so the importance of physical education will remain as it is or rather I can say it will increase once the schools are allowed to reopen because जब कोई भी चीज हमसे छीनी जाती है ना उसकी इंपॉर्टेंस और बढ़ जाती है हमारे मन में तो बच्चों को whenever I speak to my children my school children for different regions तो उनका एक ही क्वेश्चन होता है सर स्कूल कब खुलने वाले हैं we are missing our school so much so I think Jawahar sir rightly said in future we are going to see a blended model of school education or now the interaction with the parents will be very fast from this mode online mode because earlier we were having PTMs once in a quarter but now we can schedule PTM every Saturday now we can schedule PTM every month as frequent as we can have as frequent as it is required so the communication between the parent and the school will increase this COVID-19 situation this digital education this digital platform has taught everyone so much now the governments are running on the virtual platform
Yes, sir.
so why can't we educator do all these kind of things so I think this is an opportunity to equip ourselves and I think most of the schools in the urban areas has already equipped but there is a big challenge what Jawahar sir rightly said big challenge for the rural areas for the government schools because net connectivity is not so good there and many of the places net connectivity is not there
Yes.
they schools in the rural area they don't have even the computer setup like that the teachers are not that much of tech savvy there parents are not tech savvy
Yes.
गांव के लोगों को नहीं पता है कि कैसे वर्चुअल क्लास करनी है वहां के बच्चों को भी समझाना थोड़ा मुश्किल है so it will take time the big challenge and the main challenge is in the rural area and in the government schools all the public schools all the private school all the international school all IB schools are doing fantastic job as far as technology part is concerned but the big challenge is with the government schools and the rural area even in the public schools of rural area parents are not
I think that also internet connection has.
that much.
Hello. That also your voice is breaking. That also your voice is breaking. We can come back to you. So.
Yeah, I'm back again.
Okay. So till then, Rathore sir will join. Neti ma'am, coming to you, that you has talked about turning crisis into opportunity. So don't you think that teachers are overloaded regarding their reskilling themselves in terms of the student adopting the technology in the most enhanced way? So what the best practices you are following in your schools and what suggestions you want to give all the educator and the audience how to equip with the technologies to enhance, to access the student and generate the best relationships?
I would like to first of all say that a lot of teachers and a lot of educators must be watching this session. I'd like to share that there are a lot of things that we should be thankful about. First of all, so my entire discussion will revolve around these 4 to 5 statements that I truly believe in. First of all, thankfully, we all had mobiles pre-lockdown. Thankfully, otherwise it would have been very, very difficult. Many schools, they are running on mobile apps. many of the private schools, international, residential, day schools or boarding schools or whatever, they're running on mobile apps, and so are we. And being a school which is a university school, where we are kind of providing a framework from kindergarten till PhD. We were already teaching mobile technology as a subject in grade 1. And from grade 1 onwards, there was a subject called mobile ethics. Why we were doing it? Because we were trying to come up with a unique technology curriculum, pre-lockdown I'm talking about, where we are teaching them automobiles, mobile technology, energy, electronics, electrical, household technology, robotics, coding, because it offers employability. And we used to see at university levels that students used to get good jobs if they have a good command over these areas. And that's how we started introducing these subjects from grade 1 onwards. It's called a Tech 8 module. So we had all this going on at the backside, not having lockdown in our mind, but having employability in our mind, as per our vision and mission statement. Now suddenly lockdown happens. So we were doing something else, and suddenly our focus shifted to something else. Now, there were these kind of practices, which I'm just going to share with you, which actually helped us to turn the employability scenario into an opportunity to make the maximum of, the lockdown situation and the crisis that came up. First of all, we were already doing online PTMs. Many of the schools are already doing it. So it was very easy, one-to-one family discussions. So during lockdowns, we came much closer to the parent because parent was stressed, families were under pressure. We have something called behavior track, which we were already tracking on mobile for the students. So it was a very silent way of addressing the behavioral needs of a learner. Now, during lockdown, there was a major discussion on the mental health of the student. We were already tracking it. We had the previous data. It helped us to move to the next level. Then health tracking of the child. We were already doing it through mobile learning. So eventually it helped us again to know whether our parent and our children, they're fine at home. Do they have a healthy, progress report? And when I'm talking about progress report, it's the health card that I'm talking about. And a lot of schools compulsorily or otherwise, they maintain it. Then also a lot of events on mobile. There was no other way out. Mobile library access. So these were things that we were doing previous to the lockdown, which really came handy during the lockdown. And then we had these e-certificate and badges. Now, say we have an inter-class online competition, and suddenly we have an e-certificate and e-badge, being given to the student, and then this is getting added to his portfolio. The motivation level of the learner is still intact. Where everybody's talking about negative stuff, there comes a certificate and the child is happy. Another change was that we reached to families. Earlier, it was not possible for school and school teachers to reach to parents' home, to understand how the status, the situation and the background where the child lives. But today we are very, very close to the parent and the extended families. Also, the parent entered the classroom, as many people said. Teacher training started happening on mobile. There was a provision of recording the lessons. So now when the teacher records a lesson, she can view the lesson and check out the errors she's made, and there's a lot of scope of improvement, which otherwise wasn't possible in a normal classroom scenario. Also, just-in-time feedback. Now this generation is an emoticon generation. So the moment they like something, they would just put a smiley, or they would just raise a hand, or they would just put a query. So which is like instant feedback. We don't have to do much, to gather data about feedback. Training of the parents on mobile, wonderful. Also, we were doing mobile assessments. And this was very simply done, where we were just using traffic lights. So a child, is done with a chapter, we show a green light. The child knows the chapter. We show a yellow light, which is like still trying to master the chapter. And red light means repetition. So these were small symbols that we were using prior to the lockdown, which can now, a lot of schools may adopt and must be adopting. Along with that, we don't have forced learners in our classrooms now. Everybody interested, logs in. Somebody who's not interested or busy or has all kind of excuses is away from our classes. So do less, but do the best. That's what, online virtual classroom teaching taught us. And pedagogy is the new queen. So everything, infrastructure, environment, everything takes a secondary position, and pedagogy takes the first and foremost place. If the teacher is not interesting, the child will switch off. And there are a lot of ways to do that. So teacher can kind of, play games, teacher can do humor teaching.
That's great.
Boredom is the biggest challenge in virtual classroom. It is the biggest challenge. And it's difficult to hear and retain stuff. But if the teacher is humorous and uses a lot of jokes and a lot of, cinema and a lot of discussions and a lot of, you use Sudoku and you use a lot of, teaching aids, it is very interesting for the learner to hold on to the content.
Nice.
So these are certain pedagogical, innovations which we can get into our lessons and make sure that our attendance improves online.
Nice.
Also discipline. We don't have physical fights now in our classes. So somewhere discipline has improved. So there are a lot of positives, if we talk about, the virtual classroom scenario, and it's just about studying those scenarios and maybe doing a comparative study and coming out with a research paper.
Nice.
Also, I feel the questioning is better because
nice.
now there is, as Sir said, there is less peer pressure. So it's more of a personalized format. And yes, also the teacher has moved and become kind of, quality conscious and delivery conscious suddenly.
Nice, ma'am. Nice, Dr. Niti. You have taken the new normal to the next heights.
Right. So these are certain things which I feel that, they've really, we have to all be conscious about it, but these are happening.
I will request to all the participants also to, if you want to take any particular offline questions, you can take directly to reach to the Niti ma'am also. Therefore, the best practices they are following. I move on to the Raquel ma'am. Raquel ma'am, right now, in pre-COVID, all the schools and all the education institutes have invested in the infrastructure more rather than more penetration the technology part. They have more focused in the infrastructure, labs, such kind of things. They have very rare focus. You have already talked like mobile is not allowed in the classes. And we just come to the blended learning. So what your suggestions, what do you think, what your views that in what manner should the tech infrastructure should be involved in upcoming futures? So what are your views regarding the tech infrastructure for the schools and the institutions and other educators?
Okay. I think I'd like to talk about Industry 4.0 here. And in the past, the conferences were all looking at how can we be future ready, or how can we make our learners prepared for a future which is volatile and uncertain and rapidly changing, and what will schools look like in 2025, 2030. And I recall in all those forums, there was importance given to investment in technology and augmented realities and artificial intelligence and so on. So if you look around the world and you look at institutions that have very well transitioned into blended or online spaces, it's because they did not react to the COVID situation. It was a very conscious strategy on their part to be prepared for the future, which is heading in that direction. And technology and automation was having an impact on all sectors and all jobs. And it was important to prepare teachers to be more digitally savvy and use technology. It was important for learners to also embrace that. So I think it has to be a conscious, strategic, long-term vision of how you progressively invest in technology so that you are future prepared. So I think that's a very important point to make. And secondly, if you're looking at infrastructure that's already been purpose-built, it can be repurposed, because maybe not, if students are not using it in a traditional sort of classroom, it could be used for other purposes. For example, are there things that can be done with that space to meet the needs of the community? Because the school is an integral part of the community and the community has many different needs. So could we use that to create different revenue streams and also serving the needs of the community? I think that's an important consideration to have as a owner of the school as well. So micro-learning and micro-credentialing, I think, is definitely going to be here to stay. In corporate training, it is quite normal for employees to upskill and upgrade their credential using short modules, which you can do through a mobile device. It's adaptive, it's collaborative, it's engaging. And also in the teaching profession in many countries, teachers are required to have certain number of hours of continuous professional development. And one of it is also looking at new ways of teaching and learning, using technology, doing research on that, sharing that practice with the community and evolving. So in environments where that's already been in place, I think they've taken off, but it's not to say that the others have to feel like they're left behind. I think it's good. It's a good time now to take stock of where we are and where we want to be and how to get there. And definitely, I think investing in technology is an absolute must.
Nicely pointed, ma'am. And ma'am, I request all the panelists, we have a QA section. If you can see that if you click on that button, so there's just some questions has been asked by all the attendees and the participants. So if there's any question that you want to answer, you can answer right now also. So there's one question has been asked to the SK Rathore sir regarding when do you see the possibility of preschools opening, sir? Sir, can you put on the mic?
Frankly speaking, I'm telling to this thing to all the partners in this preschool segment, all the brand owners and my franchise partners. We can't see reopening of preschool at least before December, or maybe it may extend till the March or April. Because if the schools, if the government allow us to reopen, even then the parent will not be happy to send their children to the preschool. Because the children are so young, they are so prone to the infection.
Yes.
Even as educator, we'll not ask parent or force parent to send their children to the school. One thing. Second thing, we need to take care. We need to take lots of measures before reopening. And in case of preschool, it's very difficult to maintain the social distancing because most of the preschools runs in small premises. So there are lots of challenges for the preschool people after the COVID situation will come out of the COVID situation.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for pointed out. And the question from Anmol Anand to the Jawahar sir. Don't you think maintain the quality in education in terms of content and other thing is the one of the big thing to deal? How we deal that?
Quality. Yes. So this is a big challenge, and I am seeing this happening. A lot of parents write letters to the government or the collector saying that whatever delivery is happening is just happening as khana purti, nothing else. So there are two important things. One, like we run a program, I'll give an example, and Niyati has already made a reference to this. How to make the content interesting is the major point now, not just the content. So what we have done is we have done a program called EduTakshari. We run it every Sunday. EduTakshari is playing with children and parents and families, where we combine music and education. So suppose it is a geography EduTakshari. Then I start, what is Himalaya? One sentence, what is it? It is the tallest peak, this, that they can say. And Himalayas, S is the last letter, you sing a song with S. So the parents also sing, the students also sing, and where the song ends, the last letter becomes the next word You can, so if it ends with M, then you can say mountains or whatever as a part of geography. So the student learns content while he is being engaged. So engagement is a huge issue in a virtual platform because it is devoid of emotion. So there is not much emotion in a 2D picture that I am seeing in front of you. So the content takes a backseat now. It is there, it is very important, but how you deliver it, because if I put a plate full of 13 vegetables, sabji, chawal, dal, everything is there and it tastes tasteless, there is no point eating. Instead, I can eat dal chawal with good taste. So this is what is a challenge now.
Nicely pointed out, sir. Very well explained. A question from Ashish Sarkar to Niyati ma'am. Is it era of homeschooling? Ashish Sarkar is directly putting a question. Is it era of homeschooling?
Homeschooling was always there, whether we acknowledge it or not. But schooling otherwise is hand holding from both sides, and it was never, what do you say, a school alone effort, of orienting or training a learner. It was always a joint hand holding. And today, rather, it has moved to the next level, where the support and cooperation that school always urged and wanted, now post lockdown, we're getting that wholehearted support. So there are parents who sit through the classrooms, and I would also like to say here that parents are the new, quality auditors. So they are here to see whether the deliverables are up to the mark or not. And they are there to validate the content. So I think now the validation lies directly in the hands of the parents. And now it's like the best will prevail, the quality will prevail. Otherwise, earlier there were, to understand quality, there were a lot of parameters. Infrastructure was one, the student strength was another, peer market perception was another. But today it's just the content. As Sir mentioned, content is the queen, is the king. And the way you deliver it is all the more important. Also, because there are a lot of teachers here, and I just went through the questions, some of you have asked, I'd like to share just a few ideas that we use in our classrooms. The ideas are not exclusive our piece of work, but it is by Chitkara College of Education, the B.Ed college that we work very closely with. So during your lessons, you can use this in your classes. You can use gaming. You can use riddles. You can use just a minute charades. You can use bingo. You can use collage, Sudoku. You can use hot seat. You can use vocabulary posters. You can use Pictionary. You can use sticky sticker. You can use knock the loop, spin the wheel. So these are different kinds. And there was a question that how to ensure that kindergarten student or primary student gets hooked to the classrooms. So these are certain methods which you can use. You can get in touch with us later in case you want further details on this. But classrooms have to be engaging if you want the learner to stick.
Nicely pointed, ma'am. And our next question from Sheikh Saibud to the Raquel ma'am. Can you suggest any LMS for schools which can provide professional way online teaching as well as have better performance and faculty and students? He wants to suggest any LMS, so I just tell to say we are not doing any marketing, but I want that, ma'am, if you want to elaborate something, you can put your lights on that.
I wouldn't say that I'm a technology expert to give any recommendation, because each school will have to do its own audit and evaluation to see what technology will suit its best, because every school is different, every campus is different, and the learning needs are different. So you've got to do your own evaluation and find, there's so many tools out there. Some of it that Niyati highlighted as well. And a lot of it is also freely available. So there are lots of good free tools. So you don't have to necessarily have deep pockets to use some of them to engage your class. So please do some research and find out what works best for you. But looking at the questions, I just wanted to take one question which is very close to my heart, which is how do we focus on building competencies of students. This is outside the academic competencies, so that they are better prepared for their future. So like life skills, for example, is very, very paramount. And as they say, the crisis, it gives them a real life experience of what the future holds. It is uncertain, it is changing rapidly. So young people need to build resilience, need to build lifelong learning skills, need to build, grit and determination. And so this is a great opportunity to leverage the situation and learn from the experiences on how to adapt to change, how to become a lifelong learner, how to create your own future path, how to know, what opportunities are out there and what's best for you, to do a little bit of introspection to see as a person, how has this whole lockdown shaped your character? Have you learned some new skills? Have you thought about your interest? Have you thought about what you want to do or how you want to contribute to society? So I think it's also important while we have an academic focus that we look at those life skills, which are probably more important moving forward than just academic success alone, because that's what is going to help you thrive and that's what's going to set you apart. And I'm be encouraged to see if the government and policymakers and the boards of education can reduce some of the content and also probably have some ways of assessing life skills, because if it's not assessed, it doesn't get done. Everybody just gears towards what is being evaluated and how we're going to do it and prepare people for that exam. So we have to come up with a creative way in which can we use this opportunity while people are at home with their families to also build these qualities and attributes and values and skill sets that young people must have to be happy and successful in their future.
Very well said, Dr. Ma'am.
I'm sure Niyanti's already thought about it. And
Very well said. Life skills is very important because environment has changed and there's a various things has been surrounding us. So how to survive in this situation, this is very important, ma'am. And one question that is, I think any person can answer is on a lighter note. Ruchi Uppal is asking, nowadays students are very smart. They are not switching on cameras while attending class. So who want to answer this question? Yes, sir.
Students were smart at my time also, when no mobile was there. So students were always smart. They will remain always smart. They will be ahead of the teachers. What teachers think, they think 2 steps ahead of the teachers. So
as long as they switch off the cameras, but they switch on their brains, it's fine. Sitting in a classroom physically with mind off and physically into the camera is no sense at all. So I think it's a better situation, as sir said.
And our next question, Babucha is asking, how can we engage, encourage or involve primary classes for online as parents are very concerned about giving mobiles? Rathore sir, if you want to answer it.
So in case of primary classes or pre-primary classes, teachers need to be more innovative. The learning should be activity oriented. The encouragement of the children should be there, because the children in pre-primary classes and primary classes are not so big. They are very small. So in their case, we need to make the sessions engaging with the help of teaching aids, activity, interesting session बनाना पड़ेगा हम लोगों को, क्योंकि बच्चा अपने आप कहे कि इंतजार करे कि मैडम कब आने वाली है ना? हर स्कूलिंग के टाइम में, at my time also we were waiting for some special teacher कि हाँ वो टीचर की क्लास होगी तो 100% स्टूडेंट्स होते थे. ऐसे ही हमें we need to make the sessions very very innovative, very very engaging. One thing. Second thing, the time duration of the session should be controlled. ऐसा नहीं कि वो endless time घंटा 2 घंटा 3 घंटा चलता रहेगा. Because we need to think about their health also. So it should not be more than 1 hour. In case of primary classes or pre-primary classes, 1 to 1 hour to 1.5 hour is maximum time we can maintain. So and I tell you, in many of our teachers, most of our teachers in pre-primary are doing excellent work. Excellent means excellent work. Parents are asking when the classes are again starting in July. So this is the kind of response teachers are getting, not me, not you. Teachers are getting. This is the hard work teachers put in during this time.
Well said, Rathore sir. Jawahar sir, आपसे क्वेश्चन कि right now it is time to work on the PPP model, like government and the private schools should work on the same
Yes,
model
yes,
and bridge the gap between the digital divide.
yes, it is there. Once the schools start, see, as of now, everybody is virtually there at home, and schools are almost empty now. So once the schools start, I think neighborhood schools should be adopted by the better private schools, and that way the PPP model has to be worked as of now. Frankly speaking, governments don't have the money to do anything now except for deal with COVID. Frankly speaking, so salaries also they are hardly able to scrape through because we are not getting any taxes. Having said that, yes, some responsibility because the teachers are very responsible, schools are very responsible institutions, so they can handhold a couple of them or to whatever extent they can, give a TV and ask the students to settle there in their school, maintain social distancing and deliver whatever they can from, without taking any extra expense, at least from their side, is something that we are looking at. The second important thing that we missed out is what the life skills thing that we have said. Something very important has happened, that especially students from grade 6 onwards, probably in their early teens, were not behaving as responsibly, and parents were also not passing on any financial difficulties and the information and sharing it to the children. Now that they are locked down in their homes, they are understanding what their parents are going through, and maybe they are becoming more financially responsible. This is a life skill that is once in a lifetime life skill that they are learning.
One thing I want to add, Jawahar sir's answer. See, what comes to my mind, I express this feeling in other panel also sometime. So this is a time to time for the education boards to think about the shared teachers concept basically, because now this COVID situation has taught all of us the education can also happen virtually. So if any teacher sitting in Delhi, good teacher sitting in Delhi, suppose physics, I'm a physics person, so I can teach physics good. So I can take classes of any other school sitting from here only. So I think CBSE or any state board or any board should think about relaxing the norms for having PGT or TGT or this and that minimum kind of thing. Jawahar sir, please.
No, we are doing something on this already. So there are two things which I want to share. I'll not take much time. We are creating a platform in which we are asking teachers to give whatever time they have. So you might be an expert in Delhi, I'll deliver it in Andhra also. So we are doing this. But yes, that relaxation of norms and all that, see, it is very progressive. And the government doesn't think progressively. It's a confession I am making. So that is one. The second thing is that for schools and virtual classes, like you had said last time, so there are some norms which we are discussing, that preschools 1 hour, and that too we have discussed 20 minutes of teacher discussion, then 20-minute gap, another 20 minutes, then 20-minute gap, like that. Primary schools 2 hours, 6th onwards 3 to 4 hours depending on the school, with a 10-minute gap between classes, something like that we are already discussing. So that's an information I wanted to pass on.
Thank you, sir.
Well said, sir. जवाहर सर आपने बिल्कुल सही बोला. प्रोग्रेसिव सोचना सबके अभी बस की बात नहीं है.
हाँ, हमारी गवर्नमेंट थोड़ा पीछे चलती है अभी.
Let's see, sir, कि इससे कुछ चेंज आएगा, सर.
नहीं, अभी problem is all the institutions are under financial crisis, whether it is government or private.
All.
So the education board should rethink about the model what they have pushed to फॉलो,
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
Yes, sir.
तो हम लोग सैलरीज पे कहाँ, अभी बहुत सारे टीचर अनएम्प्लॉय हो गए, उनको कहाँ यूज कर सकते हैं, कहाँ अच्छे टीचर, देयर
हाँ,
big cities, secret city, we don't have good teachers. In rural areas we don't have good teachers, but we have to hire, because that is the norm of the government, that is the norm of the state board or central board the school is affiliated with. Why
I
can't
think-
we have a good teacher taking class from Delhi or any place, sitting from
Yeah,
there, taking class? So education board should relax this condition. That is my thought basically.
नहीं सर, बिल्कुल
I
सही
think
थॉट है।
that's a good idea, because everybody has transferable skill sets. Now with the COVID, I mean, there's job losses, retraining everywhere in all industries. And there are people out there with great skills who can connect with learners. So as he said, if that is the criteria, then you would have access immediately to a large pool of facilitators who can come forward and help out in this crisis.
वेल पॉइंटेड मैम। जवाहर सर, ये हमको सोचना पड़ेगा इस बारे में, रिगार्डिंग दैट all the skilled teacher can be employed in other remote areas. They can give their shiksha dan to all the people who are needy right now. And while wrapping this session, we want the closing remarks from each of the panelists regarding the reconstructive, reimagined, and the positive aspects of the education. All the participants who are listening to us, so we are right now taking the concluding remarks from the Dr. Neti Chitkara. Ma'am, your remarks from your sides regarding for the post-COVID and the future aspects of education.
Future aspect is that, every time, there's a situation like this, the nature prepares you prior and tries to help you prior. I think somewhere we had this signal that some significant change will happen in education. And whatever the circumstances are, it's important that all the stakeholders, they join hands together and they fight this out together. And also it's important to understand each other. The humanistic, understanding and the human touch in education is the most important force that drives and keeps the stakeholders intact. It's important to keep that, in the forefront, and then take major decisions that will really help us come up with better decision making, more humanistic, more community friendly, more problem solving. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Mehti, ma'am. Coming to Raquel, ma'am, your closing remarks regarding the positive aspects of the education in the post-COVID areas, ma'am.
I think it definitely is going to be exciting to collaborate across sectors. I think this has just created the need for us to all work together. So schools with higher ed, vocational education, government, employers. Education is going to be a continuum. It's a lifelong learning model. It's not only what happens within the four walls of a class, but it happens at home, it happens on sports fields and extracurricular activities. And we're constantly learning, we're constantly building competencies and skills, but we need to be cognizant of them. We need to adapt to change and upskill as necessary, but we are a very resilient race, and there is no problem that we cannot overcome if we collaborate and think of creative solutions. So I think now more than ever, we have to stop working in silos like we've done in the past, because we are in this together. This is the same situation that people all over the world are facing, whether you're in as the school or higher ed or vocational training, or even for employees to reskill and upskill. So workforce development. So it's a model that has to work only if we can all work together. And mobile technologies and micro-credentialing are a great enabler, but it will never replace what happens physically. They are only enablers, and they will continue to be used even, let's say if the vaccine is found out and we go back into schools, we can't suddenly drop the technology and tell everybody, okay, now we're going back to what it was in 2019. So we will still have to embrace and use the technology creatively in a very balanced manner. Life is all about finding the right balance of things. So it's not just online or just mobile. It will be part of the way we learn and grow and develop as a society.
Thanks, Sakal ma'am. Thanks for your kind inputs. Dr. S.K. Rathore, sir, your closing remarks regarding the positive aspects and the reconstructive and reimagining the post-COVID world in education.
COVID-19 situation has taught everyone the education can be delivered without much of infrastructure. And we need lots of work to be done in our country towards school education. So I think all the educators and the government body need to redesign, rethink about the school education model. Less infrastructure, more of education, so that maximum number of schools can be opened. Because the kind of infrastructure the people, education leaders have to build, it needs lots of investment. So if the government bodies, state boards or central board and HRD ministry and all the education leader can think about, if we can operate with less infrastructure also, then I think we will be able to educate our rural India or small town people. I think there's a need to work in that kind of situation.
Well input, sir. We all educators will promise that we will work and for the rethinking and redesigning of the Indian education systems. And coming to Dr. Jawahar, sir, your closing remarks in aspects of the future for the terms of educationists as well as the government perspectives also.
So I agree that the government needs to think more progressively. Also, we will 70% of the stake in education is held by the government. So they are a majority stakeholder. Any change or rethink that they do is going to affect at least 70%. So it's a majority stakeholder. It needs to rethink progressively. And policies are to be made so that, since it's a concurrent list subject, every state has its own way of dealing with education. So there is no unified policy, and that's a problem. So that's a problem that we are facing now. Every state deals with it differently. So a unified policy is required, which has to be, and the national education policy has been progressive. So I am expecting it to be good. So the second is that the stakeholders from the private schools also have to become more socially responsible and take part in the neighborhood schools and try to enrich them and better the ecosystem. We cannot just wash our hands off. The third is education per se is one of the least priority sectors of the government. Yeah. And I am saying this with great responsibility. Although 1 lakh crore looks big, but out of that 70-75% goes into salaries. So there is only 25% left for the developmental aspects of education. So for the government to think developmentally also, it needs funds and it is not there. So it's a last priority area which we see in the policies that the governments make. So I am looking at a very, very progressive rethink and also bring in private stakeholders to participate in this policy making so that they also give their good inputs. See, there are a lot of inputs or best practices happening elsewhere. The government again can't sit in a silo and say that I will do this only. So private stakeholders should come, participate, do, and I think we should be more accepting. That's the way forward.
Thank you, Jawahar sir. Progressive rethinking can make us the Indian education system more better. I heartily thankful to all the panelists who have joined us and shared their views regarding the tech involvement, regarding the future prospect for the education. And I sincerely thankful to all the participants who has joined and shared their views, asked the question. And I request to all the participants, if you have any questions, you can share your question at the email ID education@digitallearning.in. We will share the questions to all the panelists, to the Rathore sir, Jawar sir, Niyati ma'am, Rakil sir. If you want to follow them, you can follow them on the Facebook also, and you can share your views. And you can, if you have any problem, you can directly ask to them. They are the open-ended. And by this, we close this session. We will let this end. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. S.K. Rathore sir, for giving us the time. Thank you, Jawar sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Niyati ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Rakil sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.